Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Curious Cutlets podcast with me, Anshika. We don't have Sumit this time because it's his birthday tomorrow, and hopefully, we'll see him after his birthday. We see him. But today, we have a very, very special guest with me here, and I want to mention this because I've told him before he came in that the day I started my podcast, the one person I was very, very sure about and I have to get on my podcast is the special guest we have. A brief introduction. In my opinion, he doesn't need one, but for everyone else who's listening, you should know the great person he is. He's worked as a creative producer with Yash Raj Films. He is now heading Yuva, which is an exciting platform that produces great content. We will touch upon that in one of the episodes today. And he's someone who is fully aware of the mental health challenges people face today and is someone who talks about it in full, length without looking back. So thank you for being with us, Mr. Nikhil Taneja.
Thank you, Anshika, for the super kind and super sweet introduction. You made me feel important, which is I don't know. In this lockdown, I think if anybody can make anybody feel something, that's a really great thing, really great place to be. So thank you so much. I feel very validated right now. Like all the life decisions I have taken have led me to this introduction.
For this podcast today, right? All the validation you
Absolutely,
needed was for this episode. No,
absolutely.
but in all honesty, I'm pretty sure that you're aware of the fact that I'm a big fan of you, and I'm also very confident that after this, series of podcasts today, people will understand that there are certain conversations that you and your team are trying to make, and as people who actively consume social media, we should be people who are trying to understand that kind of content as well. So this we have a three-part series starting from today with Nikhil sir on board because he has some great background in Bollywood, and that's the topic. For us youngsters, it's sort of very far-fetched, and we don't know too much about it. Hence, I wanted to start a series and get someone from that area. And secondly, we'll also talk about Yuva a bit in detail. I personally am a big fan of Yuva, and you'll know why in the coming episode. And third, we've also had people contact, I'm sure Nikhil sir on LinkedIn and myself who are interested in knowing about how to get into the Indian film industry, not only as an actor but in different forms. Nikita, we'll begin with the first part, which is Bollywood during COVID. And the first question I want to ask you is because proximity wise, you're close to the industry and also because you worked in the industry. What is the current state of actors or directors, or let's just say artists right now, economically and emotionally in Bollywood?
I have a lot of proximity to Bollywood. I don't think, I think 2 kilometers away from Film City. I can literally see it from my window. I live in Goregaon, but I mean, I mean, of course, I've worked in the industry for a decade now. We call it the industry. I don't know. I just realized like the industry as if it's the only industry in this world. But yeah, for some reason, all of us call it the industry. We've worked in the industry. It's a very weird time for a lot of people actually, because I mean, it is a weird time of the entire world. But especially for, I mean, again, I don't want to say especially, but particularly for film and media, because all of it operates in a way where you have to kind of get large people together, to create something, that's just how it is, right? Literally, when the pandemic happened, and the first thing that was banned were large gatherings everywhere. It was a very scary thing for anybody who's associated with the film industry, because the industry is based on large gatherings. To make one film, more than 100, maybe sometimes 500 people need to come together,
Hmm.
to create it at different levels. Sometimes together on the same set, from the spot boys and to the light men and women, to the actors themselves, to the crew, technical crew, all of them encompass one film set, that needs to go on for a certain number of days before a film can even be put into edit. So it's a very scary thing for a lot
Right.
of people, because the longer this lockdown goes on, and even if it is, for example, partially lifted, we don't know the next time, X number of people can come together in the same in the same place. And while like sets are not like small spaces, you can't make a
Hmm.
film through social distancing in that sense, right? People need to be operating together in close proximity. At least the actors, how do you sort of go about this? So everyone's right now really biding their time. People are putting a lot of effort in development. They're looking at it as this opportunity. Chalo kuch likh lete hain, and then and it's not just one thing. People are writing multiple things and seeing where it kind of goes. But beyond a point of time, there's just nothing people can do. They just have to wait. And it may be actually a boon for some indie filmmakers who can use this time to do
Right.
something, who are already kind of doing things out of the box. So I've read like how Netflix has signed a deal with Genji Cohen, who has made Orange is the New Black. She's
Hmm.
making a new series called Social. It's called Social Distance, I think, or yeah, I think it's called Social Distance only. And how I mean, it's a film completely shot in the pandemic at home with actors, and it's a Netflix series that's going to probably come out in the next 3 to 4 months. There is Shreya Dhanvantari,
Wow.
who's also a friend of mine. She's just created the first micro fiction series, that has just been launched on Eros now 2 3 days ago. She's written and
Hmm.
directed it. It stars Amol Parashar. So there is people are. I mean, there is innovation also that is happening among at least those who have, who so to speak are indie filmmakers. But where your large Bollywood, and film industry people, they're just biding their time. There's very little that can be done.
It actually makes a lot of sense because it also helps us see the half glass full in a lot of ways when things are actually not going in our way. Also, Nikhil sir, we actually saw this interview with, I think, Anupama Chopra and the head of PVR Cinemas, and this one line that kept repeating was that, after COVID, cinemas would probably be the last places to be open, or people would be not very willing to spend on movie tickets. I just wanted your thoughts on this.
I mean, I see the thing is that everybody obviously, and you would know it yourself, right? All of us at this point of time are trying to keep us safe and keep our just plan for the future. People who are fortunate enough to be in a position where they are where they have money, or if they're getting money, we don't know how bad this economy is going to be at the end of this. And first of all, we don't even know when the end of this will be. So people who are earning right now, they're just trying to save as much as possible, trying not to spend, and just plan for whatever comes. Because even the people who have jobs, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. If the economy doesn't revive fully, we've already seen a lot of people being laid off here and there. So for the regular movie goer, and people at large, it's just a very scary prospect, I would imagine. And I'm just talking right now from the perspective of a movie goer myself. Even if
Mm-hmm.
I'm dying to go back to theaters, okay, I'm dying to go back and have that the magical feeling of seeing a film unfold on screen. The
Yeah.
sound, the laughter, the claps that when a movie that you've been anticipating for a long time sort of comes, in front of you. But then, is that really the thing that I am going to put myself at risk for? Until I know completely for sure that there is no chance of me getting the virus. Like for example, even if theaters today are going to put in, say, only 30% of the cinema can be full, and you can like only one person per row of seats, maybe, but like first of all, how
Mm-hmm.
much would that ticket cost? So that's one thing.
Yeah.
So perhaps only the most wealthiest of people might be able to afford that. And for everybody else, it is always going to be a risk, because every time you step out in public, no matter where you go, it is going to be a risk. So you have to just take it has to be a calculated risk on everybody's behalf. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Should I go for this? Should I not go for this?
Mm.
I of course have seen like images of what used to happen in the olden, the really like 50s and 60s. There used to be these cinemas that you could, I forget what the drive-in cinemas, right? Where you could go in a car and sit in your car
Yeah.
and watch movies. Now that's something I would be so happy to do. But then again, is that the tradition? That's not the traditional model that theater companies are obviously following. So they might
Hmm.
have to reinvent themselves. But then what happens to all the spaces that they have? The money that is going every single
Right,
day
right.
without
And it
anybody
is
coming to
happening in
theaters.
countries abroad as we speak. I heard that Germany started doing it in public parks. But again,
Yeah.
that's, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, it has to be an amalgamation of a lot of things. Your public authorities trying to, understand that, okay, we need a collective viewing experience back again. Then producers trying to reinvent themselves. And then movies have to be okay with putting themselves out there. I don't know, this probably is the challenge everyone's facing.
You're absolutely right, because see, the thing that is keeping people sane at this time is the availability of the vast amount of content that we have at our disposal in our homes. Everybody who
Correct.
has the internet is in a very privileged position because they can just go online and they can watch Netflix or Amazon or YouTube or any of the variety of content available on the internet. And that let's really be honest. That's what's keeping a lot of people sane. When TV, I mean, TV is also obviously going on, but beyond a point of time, there is no new things coming there. But there's a wealth
Hmm.
of content on OTT platforms to catch up on. Even if there's no new stuff coming, there is so much content. अगर तुमने let's even assume तुमने सारा English content खत्म कर दिया. You have Korean content, you
Hmm.
have Turkish content, you have Japanese content, you have Israeli content, and whatnot. There's so much different kinds of content all available on the internet. That's a boon for people. So I think everyone understands that. I think even I don't think that that's ever a doubt that it is art and it is entertainment and it is content that kind of keeps you sane in troubled times, in times like this. But having said that, but is it everything today, everything as we move forward is going to really come down to a measure of safety. It's all going to be a risk. Like, so if you are, I mean, it'll be beautiful as a gesture to kind of have people coming together in a cinema or in a public park to watch a movie, but how much risk are you willing to take on entertainment at this point of time, where
Hmm.
people are can be more than, which is why people are also innovating, right? Like everyone's kind of making sure people are
Yeah.
at home and watching something. So there are concerts that are happening, where people, all of these international artists from everywhere, from their homes across the world are coming together. There's been a YouTube fan festival. There's been one
Hmm.
world contest, concert. Everyone from Will Smith to Tiger Shroff has been part of that. So I mean, people are always going to find new ways of entertaining other people, but where the cinematic experience is concerned, I honestly don't know how soon we will get that. It really just, I mean, it really will depend on how soon the governments of our countries will manage to mitigate the risk of going to theaters.
Right. So you briefly mentioned about, streaming platforms. Do you think the movies which are set to release, and this is because all of us are very curious to go back like you are, do you think these movies have a provision of being released on the streaming platforms anytime soon?
Absolutely. I think a lot of movies are going to take that call, especially movies, for which were always going to be in the, like, I would say mid-level, mid-range or mid-level movies. The math of those
Hmm.
movies is not the math of those movies is can definitely be mitigated by OTT platforms. So OTT platforms, in fact, are definitely vying for new movies that were supposed to come out that were ready, because that's always going to be a really noisy noise making thing for them. If a Netflix or Amazon or a Hotstar gets the next Akshay Kumar film, the next Rohit Shetty film, the next Karan Johar film, that's obviously going to be something that everyone's going to want. But at the same time, there are films which are too big to really just be released straight on.
Hmm.
And I don't mean big only in the sense of they're too costly, because that's obviously one factor. But really in the sense of the amount of joy some of these bigger films bring to when people get together at large. Now, for example, 1983 was a film that I've been obviously looking forward to ever since it was announced. It's got this phenomenal cast. It's got with Ranveer Singh leading, the cast. It's about like this beautiful, this iconic moment of our history, and
Hmm.
I mean, if you just, I mean, that film deserves to be seen in large gatherings in cinema halls. I mean, again, I
Right.
don't have obviously a I mean, I don't have a quality judgment. I've not seen any of the film, but I would imagine that a film of that scale and of what it is trying to represent, it would just do disservice to a film like that if we watch it at home alone. And I'm not even making a judgment about
Hmm.
our laptops or our screens, or whether it's a big screen movie or a small screen movie. I'm just talking about the
Hmm.
joy that comes from watching some of these pieces of content together. While you're clapping and you're
Yeah.
shouting and you're happy. There's a joy that comes from the cinematic experience
Hmm.
that's irreplaceable. At home, and that's what I mean, I don't know when that will happen, but for the rest of it, absolutely. I think films are also going to want to do this, because beyond a point of time, if they're just lying with you, I mean, nothing really happens. I'm sure people are going to flock back to theaters, when there is less risk. But how many filmmakers just want a film like that to just stay with them versus putting it out,
Hmm.
especially at a time where all you have the maximum eyeballs you could ever have. They're at home, and you will have like the most attentive audience for a new movie, that if you put it out right now, versus of course when you put it on theater and people have to choose that movie versus anything else that they might be doing.
That's an interesting way to put it, actually. In fact, you're not the only one. In fact, Kapil Dev said that I wouldn't like if the movie's released not in theaters. So he's
No.
really rooting for it to not be. But I really liked something you said, and I think I'm a big fan of the silver screen movie experience as well. Do you think the future of cinema watching will not be so collective in nature, and we'll just shift to streaming platforms and not value the experience as much? Or do you think the streaming platforms and silver screen can coexist, because we've grown up on watching screens in theaters, movies in theaters?
See, I think we've been seeing this. We have been heading to this eventuality in some way, since a while now, with the rise of streaming
Hmm.
platforms. That cinemas are going to be a luxury. Yeah, would be a thing of luxury. It would be a leisurely activity that you kind of do at the high end. When you want to have, where it was that escapist thing for all families, that you would go out and watch a movie. Just the cost. I mean, it's been a long time coming. I don't want to get into the economics of it, but the reason you have 500 rupee popcorns and 1,000 rupee Pepsis in halls is because the real estate prices, the price of tickets, the fact that not enough movies make a certain amount of money. It's for the longest time, it's anyway been a very difficult
Yeah.
business for theaters to kind of sustain themselves. So eventually, it was always going to be the fact, whether or not the pandemic would have happened, that theaters, there would only be few theaters left, or theaters would have been a very niche experience for those who truly love films and who can afford like an expensive movie ticket, or would be ready to shell a certain amount of money. It wasn't going to happen in the next like 2 years, I would say, but maybe in the next 10 years. Now, because of this pandemic, I think it would just the it it may speed it may be sped a little bit, it may speed up a little bit, but and not because of the fact that people, once people are safe, they won't want to go back to theaters. In fact, I think that's one of the places they would definitely love going back, just to have that experience again, of being in a
Yeah.
collective and enjoying things again. But how many theaters are going to be able to survive till then is the big question. you know um, Maybe like really big chains like PVR or IMAX, etc., have enough cash or enough, or maybe do enough layoffs for them to survive. But some of the smaller theaters, some of the single screens, will they have the money to survive? Who can say? Having said that, I don't think the theater experience is ever going to go away. That's too
Okay.
inherent to what makes movies movies. So that experience is certainly going to happen, keep happening forever. And even especially when people like Christopher Nolan and Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino, as long as they exist, it's never going to go away. They will make
Yeah,
sure. So I doubt, like, yeah, I think they're going to coexist. It's just that I think this time also is going to change habits of people, if they weren't changed already. If OTTs had not become a part of people's routines in the long in a big way already, this will change habits, and it will create habits. But as a film fan,
yeah.
I really do want to see the movie screens succeed. I want to go back to them. I mean, I don't ever want the cinema experience to go away. It's too precious to people who have grown up on movies.
I agree. I agree. And just the last question for the segment, Nikhil sir. How, and I know you can't answer it very, clearly right now, but just from your vision, how soon and with what form of structure can we go back to watching movies again?
So I think I already touched upon that when I said that drive-in theaters, for example, may really be like
Hmm.
a way of looking at it. I don't know how what individual theaters are going to do. They might just, as I said, maybe the cost of going to a movie might increase substantially, and you may have
Hmm.
only like the seats, for example, and they will compensate for the seats as well. So maybe like the big
Oh
theaters operate
yeah.
as, maybe some of the bigger theaters actually start operating as intimate venues where you might have a capacity of 500 people, but only about 60 people are in that, and occupy that, and the
Yeah.
seating is changed for those 60 people to have a slightly more luxurious experience as well, because the costs have gone up, and no more than 50 to 60 people can be in a theater for a little while to watch a movie. But I'm personally really looking forward to drive-in. I think that could be an entirely new way of consuming theater and cinema, and I think it's an exciting idea as well. And public spaces, if they can be converted in some way to theaters
Hmm.
and screens, that would also be, so I think symbolic and hopeful, if people gather together. I'm waiting for that innovation where, like a community of people in their balconies, where in Italy people are, singing songs and playing songs to each other. I'm waiting for that movie that is
Yeah.
going to be screened on a projector, on some wall, and then people in their balconies are sitting together and watching it. Who knows, something like that. And if that is possible, if that ever is
Hmm.
possible, I think it will be possible in a country like India. So I'm looking forward to the innovations people come up with. Because I think movies and Bollywood, it's too ingrained in our blood. As Indian cinema is really what has defined us in so many different ways growing up. So we will find a way. I'm very sure of it.
Wow, that's been a very, very hopeful statement because all of us really can't wait to go back to cinemas and just watching. Just for example, for a person like me who I didn't have Netflix, Amazon until say last month. I don't
Oh
look at
wow,
streaming platforms at all. Just read and go to movies. I downloaded it forcefully, and I think in 50 days I've probably just seen like 15 minutes of content. So
wow.
it can get hard for some people. But thanks for your thoughts on this segment, Nikhil sir. We'll shift to the segment number two.